Hi everybody, Jillian here. Welcome back to my channel. I have a new heritage scrapbook video for you today. I am back from my travels, part of which took me up to Philadelphia. It was a bit of an ancestry, genealogy trip, and I want to share a bit of it with you today. So here's a family photo that we took outside of the German Society in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here's a look at the inside. This is just such a cool place where I did a lot of my research. I specifically went to see this scrapbook from the 1920s, I want to say. This is what I went for. My husband's great-great-grandfather, I found that his obituary was in this scrapbook that this German friend of his had kept. I could not find these obituaries anywhere online using any of the resources that I had, been using with much success for other relatives. So what you're looking at here is just some newspaper clippings that this guy clipped from 1924, and then they're all in German, and then he wrote in his own handwriting a few tidbits about Frank, who we'll be talking about later on in this layout. So just wanted to share that with you guys. So back to our regularly scheduled programming, here is a look at some of the supplies that I'm going to be using today. Mostly using Where Memory Keeper's Wildflower collection. I am in love with the paper pad that I got at Michael's for like $6. It was recently a hot buy. Here is a picture of Frank Simo, who I'm going to be talking about today. I'm not scrapbooking this 5x7 photo of him, but I just wanted to give you guys a face to put with the name. Instead, I'm going to be using two 3x4 photos that I had printed on my Canon selfie. These are two photos that I have taken on our trip there in the Academy of Music in Philadelphia. And it said that he painted the fresco in the auditorium there, and it did a lot of the interior work. Now, I haven't been able to verify that yet. I was only able to have the librarian at the German Society translate part of his obituary, which did references. He was a designer, he was a painter, a decorative painter by trade, and he did a lot of work in the opera houses in Philadelphia and elsewhere. We cannot be sure, though, that it was this exact one. I'll address it in my journaling, but I do have a layout, I think it's the Mr. Universe layout, where I talk about how I deal with family folklore in the Heritage albums. And you can check that out in the Heritage Scrapbook playlist. I'll go ahead and link that below. So I'm just showing you guys a bit of what I'm going to be using here. Some thickers, I think these are called hardcover. The black ones are called the Homestead font. I didn't use those, but I thought they would be a good mix. I have some Maggie Holmes embellishments, her open book ephemera pack, and just some other random ephemera pieces from older collections. So I'm going to start by taking this beautiful background paper from the Wildflower collection, and I'm going to cut it down to 9x12. All of the layouts in these albums are 9x12. This paper, I think, is from Maggie Holmes' flea market collection. I'm almost positive, and I wanted to use it since I'm essentially talking about an opera house. So I'm going to go ahead and get the photos trimmed down, and I'm going to matte them using some vellum. There are no true whites on this photo, so I was unsure of how to matte them. That's something that I like to do to just provide a little separation from the layout or from the background and the photos. So I didn't want to use a stark white paper, so I ended up using vellum to keep it neutral and soft. So I go ahead and stagger the photos, and I'm going to go ahead and use this beautiful floral paper. I'm going to cut it to about 3.5 inches and layer it behind the music paper, just to provide some contrast. Now I apologize if this seems like a layout that you've seen before from me. I wasn't necessarily feeling super creative. I wanted to share something with you guys that I had learned on my trip, and I haven't scrapbooked in about 3 weeks, and I've just really been eager to get going, and so I'm wading in slowly and using a design that I've used several times before, so I'm sorry if it feels like recycled content. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is fussy cut a few of the florals from this pattern paper. Fussy cutting is not my idea of a good time, so I do it rather quickly, and I end up cutting off a bunch of the leaves and smaller things. Next, what I'm going to do is go ahead and go through the ephemera packs and pull out the pieces that I think I want to use. I typically don't scrapbook with metallics. I feel like I'm just not that fancy, so this is a great opportunity for me to use a lot of the gold die cuts that I have because it's such an ornate auditorium, and I wanted to draw out some of the gold from the photos. So I'm just pulling out things that could be used for a journaling spot or are pretty plain in nature. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get my title down on some wax paper. I have an idea of where I want it to go, but I'm not totally sure. But before I go ahead and get that stuck down, I want to make sure that the rest of these embellishments are adhered to the page. And what I'm going to do is use that date tab from the Maggie Holmes Style Board collection and use that to record the date. This is probably the newest, most modern photo that I have in these heritage albums because it was taken last week or 2 weeks ago. Before I start my journaling and get the title down, I want to add some more gold and some more bulk to that photo on the right, so I'm layering the larger die cut behind it just to give it some more presence on the page. And then I decide to go ahead and take some foam adhesive and pop up the florals on the page just to give them a little more dimension. So while I'm fussing around with the title placement, I just want to tell you guys how this came about. Basically, when I was doing some ancestry research a few months ago, I Googled this guy's name, Frank Sima, and he was a member of the German Society, and when I Googled him, I found a link to a finding aid, and it's a finding aid for the German Society's Horner Memorial Library in Philadelphia. And so, for some reason, when this scrapbook was indexed by the library, they specifically pulled out my husband's great-great-grandfather's name, which was pretty cool. So I emailed the librarian and asked her if this material was available. We were planning a trip up there, and she was super helpful. And since I'm not a member of the German Society in Philadelphia, I had to pay a small research fee. I think it was about $10. And we went up there, and she was super helpful. She spoke German. She was able to translate a lot of things for us. Fortunately, we had the entire library to ourselves, and it was just a great experience. And, you know, she basically just handed the scrapbook over to me, and it was amazing to be able to flip through things that were just so old. I couldn't make a photocopy of these documents, so I ended up taking photographs with my phone. And then I'm going to piece them together and figure out how to include it in my heritage scrapbook. So stay tuned for that. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, though. So just casually writing my journaling down, I'm just drawing some lines to record the story. So basically, I'm just mentioning the photos were taken in the interior of the Academy of Music in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We were fortunate enough to gain access one random Wednesday morning. We went to the stage door and they let us in. We told them, you know, that my husband's great-great-grandfather had painted the fresco on the ceiling, and they were pretty cool about letting us in. So that was a nice surprise. I haven't been able to verify, like I said, that he painted the ceiling, but I do reference that I was able to determine he did a lot of the interior work at opera houses in the area, and he did a lot of set designs specifically in this theater. So while I can't be certain of the one fact, I do report what I know is true, and that's kind of how I've been working in these albums. Here's a look at my finished layout along with a couple close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so excited to share the things that I learned on this trip with you. It was just a really great time, and we got to research things on both sides of our family. So stay tuned in the coming weeks for some fresh inspiration.